Adana was not like the other children in her village. While they were content with their daily routines, helping their parents, gathering firewood or playing simple games, she was always questioning, always wondering. Her mind was a restless ocean of curiosity, and her heart beat with an adventurous spirit that few could understand. From a young age she had listened intently to the stories told by the village elders, tales passed down through generations, each carrying a lesson or a warning. Some spoke of great warriors, others of cunning tricksters, but the one that had always fascinated her the most was the tale of the forbidden cave. The forbidden cave was said to lie deep within the heart of the forest, beyond the towering baobab trees and the winding river that marked the boundary of their village. No one spoke of what lay inside, only that it was a place no one must enter. The elders, with their wrinkled faces and wise eyes, would sit by the fire at night and weave warnings into their stories. The cave is a place of mystery, they would say. A place where those who enter never return. Some said spirits guarded its entrance, others claimed that a powerful force lurked within, waiting for foolish intruders. But these warnings only fed Adana's curiosity. Why was the cave forbidden? What lay inside that made it so dangerous? Was it truly a place of doom, or was it simply a story meant to keep children from wandering too far? Unlike the others who shuddered at the mere mention of the cave, Adana felt drawn to it. She could not ignore the pull of the unknown. She often sat at the edge of the village, staring into the distance where the forest loomed like a sleeping giant. She imagined herself walking through the thick undergrowth, feeling the crunch of leaves beneath her feet, hearing the distant cries of birds in the canopy above. She pictured the mouth of the cave, dark and uninviting, yet full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. The thought sent shivers down her spine, not of fear but of excitement. Despite her curiosity, Adana knew better than to disobey the elders outright. Her mother, a stern yet loving woman, had warned her many times to stay away from the forest's depths. Curiosity is a blessing, but it is also a curse if left unchecked, she had said, gently brushing Adana's thick curls. Some places are forbidden for a reason. And so Adana waited. She watched and listened, absorbing every bit of knowledge she could about the cave from whispered conversations and passing remarks. She knew that one day she would have to find out the truth for herself. The call of the unknown was too strong to resist, and deep in her heart she sensed that her destiny was waiting inside the cave, hidden in the shadows of the ancient rock. What she did not know was that the day of discovery would come sooner than she ever expected. The village of Nwand was built on traditions, wrapped in ancient beliefs that shaped the lives of its people. Among these beliefs, none was more sacred than the warning of the forbidden cave. It was said that the cave was cursed, a place where the spirits of the ancestors roamed restlessly, where the balance of life and death was fragile. No one dared to question these stories, for they had been passed down through generations, etched into the very fabric of their existence. Adana had heard the legends many times. The elders spoke in hushed tones of those who had entered the cave, never to be seen again. Some had gone seeking answers, others had been foolish enough to chase adventure, but all had vanished into the depths of the cave's darkness. And then there were the ones who had returned, changed, distant, their eyes hollow and their voices barely above a whisper, as if a piece of their soul had been left behind. Despite these warnings, Adana could not shake the feeling that there was more to the story. The cave did not frighten her the way it did the others. Instead, it fascinated her. It was a mystery waiting to be unraveled, a forbidden secret that tugged at the edges of her curiosity. One evening, as she sat outside her grandmother's hut, the old woman took her hands in hers, her weathered fingers warm against Adana's smooth skin. "Child," she said, her voice low but firm, "you must promise me that you will never go near that cave." Adana looked into her grandmother's wise, knowing eyes. "Why, grandmother?" she asked softly. "What truly lies inside?" Her grandmother's face darkened with an expression Adana had never seen before. "There are things in this world that must remain unknown. The cave is not a place for the living. It is a place where the spirits walk, where secrets beyond our understanding are buried. It has swallowed the foolish and will swallow you too if you let it." Adana nodded, but deep inside she knew she could not make such a promise. Something inside her stirred whenever she thought of the cave. It was more than curiosity, it was a pull, an unexplainable force calling her toward the unknown. Days passed and Adana tried to push away her thoughts about the cave, but fate had its own plans. One afternoon, as she fetched water from the river, she heard voices coming from behind the chief's hut. Careful to stay hidden, she crept closer, pressing herself against the wall to listen. "The treasure must never be found," the chief's voice was grave. "If anyone enters that cave and uncovers its secrets, the entire village could suffer. We have kept it hidden for generations and it must remain that way. Treasure? Adana's heart pounded in her chest. Could this be the true reason the cave was forbidden? Was it not spirits or curses that kept people away but something much more tangible, something valuable? She barely heard the rest of the conversation before she turned and hurried away, her mind racing. The cave was no longer just a legend to her. It was a place of truth, a place of secrets waiting to be uncovered. And now more than ever she needed to see it for herself. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the village of Nwand. The soft rustling of leaves and the distant croaking of frogs filled the night air. Adana lay on her sleeping mat, staring at the thatched roof of her grandmother's hut. No matter how much she tried, she could not silence the thoughts swirling in her mind. The chief's words haunted her, the treasure must never be found. The elders had always spoken of spirits, of curses, but never had they mentioned a treasure. Why had they hidden this truth? What lay inside the cave that they feared so much? A fire burned inside her, an insatiable need to know the truth. The cave had whispered to her for years and now, it called her louder than ever before. She had to go. She had to see it for herself. Carefully she sat up, glancing toward her sleeping grandmother. The old woman's breath was deep and steady. Adana tiptoed across the hut, grabbed a small satchel and stepped out into the cool night. The village was silent, the only movement coming from the flickering oil lamps that hung outside each hut. Her heart pounded as she made her way past the homes, staying close to the shadows. If anyone saw her, they would demand to know where she was going. She could not turn back now. Reaching the edge of the village, she found the hidden path the hunters spoke of, the one that led into the deep forest. It was ancient, barely visible under the thick undergrowth, but she knew it was the only way. Taking a deep breath, she stepped onto it. As she walked deeper into the forest, a strange sensation washed over her. The trees seemed taller, their twisted branches stretching like arms in the dim moonlight. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Then she heard it, a whisper soft and distant like a voice carried on the wind. She froze, her heart racing. The elders often spoke of the spirits in the forest, warning that they misled wanderers, tricking them into losing their way. But these whispers did not sound menacing. They were gentle, almost guiding. Then something caught her eye, tiny specks of light dancing through the trees. Fireflies. But these were unlike any she had ever seen before. They glowed with a golden hue, swirling and weaving ahead of her, as if leading her forward. Adana swallowed hard, her curiosity overpowering her fear. She followed the glowing insects, watching in awe as they moved in perfect harmony, forming a trail deeper into the forest. The whispers grew stronger, blending with the rustling leaves. After what felt like an eternity, she finally saw it. The entrance to the cave loomed before her, hidden behind a curtain of vines. It was massive, its jagged rocks forming the shape of an open mouth. Darkness seeped from within, an abyss that seemed to breathe with its own life. A chill ran down her spine, but she did not turn away. Standing before the entrance, she felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. This was the place of legends, the source of countless warnings, the home of forgotten secrets. She reached out, brushing the vines aside. The air inside was cool, carrying the scent of damp stone and something ancient, something untouched by time. Her fingers trembled, but she stepped forward, her heart hammering against her ribs. Whatever lay inside, she was ready to face it. As Adana stepped into the cave, a rush of cool air greeted her, sending a shiver down her spine. The darkness enveloped her, but as her eyes adjusted, she gasped in astonishment. The walls were not barren as she had expected. Instead, they shimmered with an ethereal glow, as though tiny stars had been trapped inside the rock itself. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the cave walls, casting a soft golden hue, illuminating symbols and carvings etched deep into the stone. With hesitant steps, she moved forward, her fingers trailing over the strange markings. They were not random scratches. These symbols told a story. Figures of people raising their hands toward the sky, a great serpent coiled around a tree, and what appeared to be a golden sun descending into the earth. Adana's heart pounded with excitement. Were these the forgotten legends that the elders refused to speak of? Her gaze traveled across the chamber, taking in its wonders. Piles of artifacts lay scattered across the floor, golden masks with intricate patterns, stone tablets covered in unreadable script, and pottery that seemed too delicate to have survived the passage of time. She knelt beside a wooden chest, its surface adorned with carvings of animals and celestial symbols. Slowly she reached out and traced the image of a lion etched onto the lid. Before she could lift it open, a soft hum filled the chamber. It was a sound unlike anything she had ever heard, neither human nor animal but something ancient, something alive. The air around her thickened, pressing against her skin, making it hard to breathe. Then she heard the voice. "You have entered the sacred chamber of the ancestors. Why have you come?" Adana's breath caught in her throat. The voice was deep yet gentle, carrying the weight of centuries. She turned slowly, her eyes widening as a luminous figure materialized before her. It was unlike any human she had ever seen, tall and robed in flowing garments made of light itself. Its face was both young and old, shifting between features that were familiar yet unknowable. She struggled to find her voice. I seek the truth," she finally whispered. The spirit regarded her in silence, its glowing eyes seeming to peer into her very soul. Then it extended a hand and the walls of the chamber came alive. The carvings shifted, moving as if they were telling a tale. The figures danced, the serpent slithered, and the golden sun pulsed with energy. "Long ago this cave was not a place of fear but a place of wisdom," the spirit said. "Your ancestors were the keepers of knowledge, the guardians of balance. But greed and fear led them to hide what was once shared freely. Now the truth lies buried, waiting for one brave enough to uncover it." Adana felt a lump in her throat. Was this the treasure the chief had spoken of? Not gold, not riches, but the forgotten knowledge of her people? She looked up at the spirit. "Can it be restored?" The spirit nodded. "If you have the courage to carry the truth back to your people, the past may yet be healed." Adana clenched her fists, determination surging through her. She had stepped into the forbidden cave seeking answers, but she had found something far greater, her purpose. Adana stood in silent awe as the spirit's words echoed through the glowing chamber. The air around her seemed to hum with energy, as if the cave itself was alive and listening. The spirit's presence, though imposing, radiated a warmth that calmed her racing heart. "This place is not what your people have been told," the spirit said, its voice reverberating through the cavern walls. "For generations, the truth has been hidden beneath layers of fear and deception. The cave is not cursed, nor is it a place of doom. It is sacred, a temple of wisdom, a vault of knowledge left behind by your ancestors." Adana's mind swirled with questions. How could this be? Her grandmother, the village elders, even the chief himself had warned that stepping into the cave meant certain doom. Yet here she was, standing within its depths, unharmed, uncovering truths she had never imagined. "But why?" she asked. "Why would my people believe it to be cursed?" The spirit moved closer, and as it raised its hands, the cave responded. The symbols on the walls shifted once more, their glowing lines forming new images. This time, Adana saw people kneeling before wise figures who carried staffs of light. The people received scrolls and teachings, and in return they flourished, building homes, learning the ways of nature, and living in harmony. "Once, long ago, this knowledge was shared with your ancestors freely," the spirit explained. "They were taught the secrets of the land, the stars, the healing herbs, and the balance of life itself. But as time passed, fear crept into their hearts. Some sought to use this wisdom for power, for control over others. Greed poisoned the minds of a few, and conflict arose." Adana watched as the images darkened. Shadows of men fighting over scrolls appeared on the walls. The light of wisdom faded as figures turned on one another, their greed corrupting what was once sacred. The last scene sent a chill through her. Leaders of the village standing before the cave's entrance, sealing it shut, while frightened villagers watched. "The elders of that time made a choice," the spirit continued. "They decided that it was safer to bury the past than risk its misuse. They wove a tale of curses and spirits, of endless doom for those who dared enter. Over the years, fear became stronger than curiosity. And so, the truth was forgotten." Adana felt her heart ache. Her people had been living in ignorance, believing in a lie that had been passed down for generations. How many lives had been shaped by this deception? How many dreams had been stifled because of a fear that no longer held meaning? The spirit turned its glowing gaze upon her. "But now you have come," it said. "You are different. Your heart seeks truth, not power. Your mind is open, not clouded by fear. That is why you were called here." Adana swallowed hard. "What am I supposed to do?" she asked. "Restore what was lost," the spirit replied. "The choice is yours, but if you accept, you will bear a great responsibility. You must bring this knowledge back to your people, but you must do so with wisdom. Not all will accept the truth easily. Some will resist, for fear is deeply rooted. Others may seek to use what you share for their own gain. The path ahead will not be easy." A heavy silence filled the cave. Adana's thoughts raced. Could she truly do this? She was just a girl, an ordinary villager. How could she convince an entire community to abandon their fears and embrace a truth they had never known? And yet, deep in her heart, she knew the answer. She had always felt different, always questioned what others accepted without doubt. She had always felt a pull toward something greater, something unseen. Maybe this was why. Maybe this was her purpose. Taking a deep breath, she lifted her chin and met the spirit's glowing eyes. "I will do it," she said, her voice steady. "I will bring the truth back." The spirit smiled, and the cave seemed to glow even brighter. "Then the journey begins," it said. As Adana turned to leave, she felt a strange warmth in her chest, as if the wisdom of the cave had already begun to take root inside her. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: her life and the lives of her people would never be the same again. Adana stood before the spirit, her heart pounding. The air inside the cave had grown still, as if the very walls were waiting for her decision. The glow of the ancient symbols pulsed gently, casting shifting shadows across the cavern floor. "You have seen the truth," the spirit said, its voice both powerful and calm. "But knowledge is not given freely, it must be earned. Before you leave this place, you must prove that you are worthy of carrying this wisdom." Adana swallowed hard. She had already taken a great risk by entering the forbidden cave, but now an even greater challenge awaited her. "I am ready," she said, her voice steady despite the unease curling in her stomach. The spirit raised its hand, and suddenly the cave began to transform. The walls shimmered, the symbols rearranging themselves into a new pattern. The chamber expanded, revealing a stone platform at its center. On the platform sat an ancient puzzle, intricate carvings of interconnected symbols and runes, each glowing faintly. "You must solve the puzzle of the ancestors," the spirit said. "Each piece represents a part of your village's lost history. Arrange them in the correct order, and the knowledge within will be revealed." Adana stepped forward, examining the puzzle. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Some symbols looked familiar, representations of the sun, the river, the trees, but others were completely foreign. She reached out, running her fingers over the engravings, feeling their cool surface beneath her touch. She took a deep breath, remembering the stories her grandmother had told her. The village had once thrived on ancient wisdom, secrets of healing, understanding the stars, and living in harmony with nature. Could these symbols hold the key to restoring that lost knowledge? She moved the pieces carefully, placing them in patterns that felt right. Some fit together seamlessly, glowing brighter as they connected. Others rejected her placement, dimming when arranged incorrectly. Time seemed to stretch on, but she remained focused, adjusting, testing, thinking deeply about the meaning behind each symbol. At last, with one final shift, the entire puzzle illuminated in a brilliant golden light. The carvings merged, forming a breathtaking tapestry of knowledge, scenes of her ancestors teaching, building, and thriving in balance with the world around them. The spirit's voice returned, filled with approval. "You have proven yourself worthy, Adana. You carry the mind of a seeker and the heart of a leader. But one final test remains." The cave darkened, and a chilling wind swept through the chamber. Adana gasped as shadows twisted around her, forming into the shape of her greatest fear, failure. Before her stood the villagers, their faces twisted in anger and rejection. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her ears, filled with disappointment. The village chief pointed at her accusingly, shouting that she was a foolish girl who had brought danger upon them all. Fear clawed at Adana's chest. Was this what awaited her if she returned? Would they refuse to listen, cast her out, call her a liar? She squeezed her eyes shut, willing the fear away. Then she took a deep breath and spoke aloud. "This is not real." The shadows wavered. "I am not afraid to face the truth," she continued, her voice stronger now. "If my people reject me, I will not turn back. I will find a way to help them see. I will not give up." The shadows howled and shrank away, dissolving into nothingness. The cave's golden light returned, surrounding Adana in warmth. The spirit nodded. "You have passed the test of the ancestors. You are ready." With a wave of its hand, the spirit summoned a sacred object, an ancient pendant, glowing with untold wisdom. It floated toward Adana, resting gently in her hands. "This carries the knowledge of your ancestors," the spirit said. "Use it wisely. Share it with those who are ready to learn. But remember, true wisdom is not in the object itself. It is in how you choose to use it." Adana clutched the pendant close to her heart, feeling its energy course through her. She had faced the test, conquered her fear, and now she carried the key to unlocking the truth for her people. As she stepped toward the exit of the cave, she knew her journey was far from over, but she was ready. As the sun began to rise over the village, Adana emerged from the dense forest, her heart filled with both excitement and uncertainty. She had left as a curious girl searching for answers, but she was returning as a bearer of ancient wisdom. The pendant given to her by the spirit guardian glowed faintly beneath her grasp, radiating warmth and energy. But would her people listen? Would they believe what she had discovered? When she stepped into the village, the familiar sights and sounds greeted her, but something felt different. The villagers paused their daily work, turning to stare at her in surprise. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Where has she been?" one woman whispered. "She went to the forbidden cave," another muttered, eyes wide with fear. The village chief and elders quickly approached, their faces lined with concern and anger. Her grandmother, standing among them, gasped and clutched her chest. "Adana," the chief bellowed. "You disobeyed our warnings. Do you not understand the danger you have brought upon yourself?" Adana took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. "I understand more than I ever have before," she said. "The cave is not cursed. It is sacred. Our ancestors left behind their wisdom, and we have been blind to it for generations." Gasps spread through the villagers, and some shook their heads in disbelief. "Lies?" one elder scoffed. "No one who enters that cave returns unchanged." "She must have been possessed," a woman cried, pulling her children close. Adana's heart sank. They were so consumed by fear that they refused to listen. But she had to find a way to show them the truth. At that moment, a desperate voice called out from the crowd. "Please, someone help." A frail man staggered forward, his face pale and covered in sweat. He collapsed onto the ground, trembling violently. Adana recognized him. It was Bakery, a kind-hearted farmer who had been ill for weeks. His wife knelt beside him, sobbing. "The healer has done all she can," she wept. "He is slipping away." Adana's mind raced. She remembered the knowledge given to her in the cave, the lost remedies and secrets of healing. "Let me help him," she said, stepping forward. The villagers hesitated. The chief narrowed his eyes. "You claim to have learned something useful? Then prove it." Kneeling beside Bakery, Adana pulled out the pendant. It pulsed softly as she recalled the teachings from the cave. She gathered herbs from a nearby hut, mixing them with water and chanting the ancient words of restoration. Then she pressed the mixture to Bakery's lips and placed her hand over his chest. For a moment nothing happened. The crowd held its breath. Then slowly Bakery's breathing steadied. Color returned to his face and his trembling stopped. His eyes fluttered open and he gazed around in confusion. What happened?" he murmured. His wife gasped, tears of joy streaming down her face. "You were at death's door," she cried. "But now, you are healed." A stunned silence fell over the village. The elders exchanged uncertain glances. The chief, who had always been so certain of the cave's danger, suddenly looked unsure. Adana stood, meeting his gaze. "I did not return cursed," she said firmly. "I returned with the wisdom of our ancestors. The cave does not bring doom, it holds the knowledge we have lost." The chief took a deep breath, his hardened expression softening. He looked at the villagers, then at the pendant in Adana's hands. "For generations we let fear control us," he admitted. "Perhaps we were wrong." Murmurs of agreement swept through the crowd. Some villagers stepped closer, eager to hear more. At last the chief nodded. "Tell us, Adana. What else did you learn?" A smile spread across her face. She had done it. She had broken the chains of fear. The truth was finally being revealed. For generations, the people of Adana's village lived under the shadow of fear, believing that the forbidden cave brought only misfortune. But Adana's courage changed everything. By daring to seek the truth, she uncovered the wisdom of the ancestors, knowledge that had been lost for centuries. The true treasure hidden within the cave was not gold or jewels, but understanding. The villagers had spent years avoiding the unknown, letting fear control them. But knowledge, when used wisely, is the greatest power of all. It has the ability to heal, to guide, and to transform lives. Adana's bravery taught her people that fear often arises from ignorance. The stories of doom and misfortune were never real, only the fear that people had passed down through the generations. Once the truth was revealed, the village no longer saw the cave as a place of danger. Instead, it became a symbol of enlightenment, a sacred place where the wisdom of their ancestors could be honored. Her actions not only saved Bakery's life but also opened the minds of her people. The village elders who had once dismissed her, now sought her guidance. They realized that clinging to fear had kept them from progress, from understanding the true depth of their history. Adana did not seek power or recognition, she simply wanted to share what she had learned. And in doing so, she changed the destiny of her village forever. Her story became a legend, passed down through generations, not as a tale of terror, but as a lesson in courage and wisdom. Parents no longer warned their children about the cave out of fear. Instead, they told them Adana's story to inspire curiosity, bravery, and the pursuit of knowledge. The cave was no longer forbidden. It was now a place where the villagers would go to reflect, learn, and honor the spirits of the past. And Adana, the girl who had once been just another curious child, became a name forever remembered. A reminder that truth is worth seeking even when the whole world warns against it. The legend of the forbidden cave had changed. It was no longer a warning. It was an invitation, to think, to learn, and to grow.